Hey, kia ora. Helen Brahms here, coming live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic, sparkling day. First of all, welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast, episode number 1484. And we're getting close to that 1461. And did I change the number? I did change the number. Excellent. I just had the sudden thought that I didn't change the number. I don't know. But first of all, before we get started, for all of those that have sent me private messages saying, what's happening? What's happening? Can you tell me what's happening? Because I made the announcement the other day that something exciting is happening that I can't talk about right now. And yet some of you want to know. I'm not telling. You're going to have to learn patience. Patience is a virtue. It's something I've had to grasp with and learn. And I'm okay, I've had to take several deep breaths over the last few days while this particular project is being worked on. Before I am able to announce it. So it's still germinating right now. It hasn't sprouted wings to fly yet. So you're going to have to, like me, you're going to have to be patient. So anyway, but without further ado, on to today's topic, which is the Misc, the miscellaneous genealogy records. Oh my gosh, this is so much fun, and the treasures that you can find when you're going through, like if you're helping a relative to downsize, some of the stuff that they may have tucked away is like fantastic. It really is. There's some great stuff that you can find out there. Where am I going? Oh, over here. I've hidden my notes. But you can do something as simple as let's see. Oh, when I was at I lived with my mother, and when Brad and I lived with my mother-in-law, or his mum, we were helping her clean out these big lateral filing cabinets that each had like 4 drawers that stood, somewhere close to 5 foot high. It had these big 4 drawers. There was 2 of them next to each other, and so I'm helping clean them out and sort them out and just basically organize them, because it was just, you open up and there's just stuff in there. And one of the things I found was this really cool box. And I thought, what the heck is this? And I opened it up, and my hands started to shake with this box. What was in this box? It was Brad's birth box. And you're going, what's a birth box? Well, back when Brad was born, my mother-in-law left the hospital with this box. And in this box, there was the first photograph of Brad just after he was born. It was a little black and white photograph, and it basically was just his head. And then it faded out to white in the background. Then they had, what else was in there? Oh, there was a card in there that had on it his name, his date of birth, the time he was born, how much he weighed, how long he was, his length, who the doctor was that delivered. So there was that birth record. And then there was actually a record in there, like a vinyl record. I have no idea what this thing could be played on, but there was this record about this big, and on the sleeve it had written baby's first cry. They had actually recorded onto a vinyl record Brad's first cry. I have no idea how it can be played. I'm going to get it figured out one day and do something with it as well. Then there was, and that was from, and what else was in there from there? That was just from the day he was born, which was really cool. I thought, this is awesome. And then also tucked in the box were other stuff related to Brad, but there was this little envelope, and I opened up this little envelope. It was from his first haircut. It was all of his little strawberry blonde curls from his very first haircut. And because I went to Jenny, I go, whose hair is this? And she goes, oh, that's Brad's. That was from his first haircut. I said, the one he had when he was 2 years old? She goes, oh, yes. Because you see, what happened when Brad was 2, the reason that he got his first haircut was because in 1962 was the Bel Air fire, which got very close to my in-laws' place, where the house that they were living in when Brad was born, and it got very close to that. And in the newspaper, it was written up about Mr. and Mrs. Brahms, their 3 boys, and their baby girl. Brad got his haircut the next day. after his mother read that, he was in there getting his first haircut, and this envelope was the curls from his first haircut. She wanted them to know that she actually had 4 boys, not 3 boys and a girl. So yeah, he got his first haircut the day after that article appeared in the newspaper, and there were other bits and pieces from his life in this box as well, and it was a really cool box. My mother made a scrapbook of my birthday cards up until the age of 12, and the very first page has the notice that was in the newspaper. It had my crib tag, which had my name on there. It had the day and time I was born. It had my birth weight. I don't think it had my length on there. I'll have to go back and have a look when I get it out of storage. And it had all the first baby. So there's, the collection of birth cards and then the birthday cards for the years following. And there were some really cool birthday cards. There's this whole one about going shopping that had a game board. You open it up and there's a game board in there and there's pieces you could punch out. And you're basically doing this, it's a game through a grocery store for a birthday card. It was pretty cool. So there's just a couple of things. So there's all sorts of different things that you can find out there. There could be an ancestral recipe book, a collection of family recipes that have been passed down through the generations. They may contain notes in there about how the recipes have been adjusted over time, allowing for maybe different ingredients coming in, and it's also been added to over time. So this, and I've seen some of these books, and they are absolutely gorgeous. They are handwritten recipes, and there's some of them will have little notes next to them that's been written by a later generation where they said, well, we couldn't find this, so we substituted that. Then there's room in the back where people have added, or it may be a recipe card box, and there's newer cards in there where people have added in new recipes that have been passed down through generations. And the one that I got to see was a 5-generation recipe box. It was awesome. It was amazing to think that there was these family recipes from 5 generations ago. And if you think generations are usually around 20 years, so this was, this is going back 100 years. And seeing some of the things and seeing like the little notes about, we no longer have this ingredient, so we have substituted with this. And then some of them had dates on them when they were put into the box. But it was just an incredible piece of family history that was in this recipe book. Box. In this box, it was this box that had all these different recipes written in there, of just recipes handed down through generations. And there were dishes in there that there was one recipe card that had Great Aunt Mabel's pound cake. So obviously Great Aunt Mabel was known for her pound cake recipe, and it was in there and it was written down on a card. It was just incredible. It's just one of those things. Another one that I have heard of, I have not seen one of these, but I have heard of it, where families have preserved hair samples from different family members. That at some point in time, they may be able to, I don't know why it was started. I don't know how old these hair samples were, but there were some that were, there are these registries out there for hair where different family members have taken, and they've been put into envelopes and they've been labeled with who it was, when they were born, where they were born. If they passed, somebody went on and added in on the outside of the envelope. This is what I've been told by another genealogist who had seen this, and they said, if there'd be somebody in the family who was responsible for the hair registry. And I'm like, how did that even get? She says, I do not know the story behind it. I just came across it, and I'm like, that is the weirdest thing. This one I have heard of being done as well, which is a great heirloom to pass down, and that is a family tree quilt. And it has there's a patch of each family member or a branch of the family tree that's done on this thing, showing the direct descendants that are in this line. And it is often passed down through generations, and over the years the quilt has grown to include the new family members. So I've heard of that being done as well. I would absolutely love to see one of those. I've seen pictures of them, but I would actually like to see it in person. There are journals that get passed down through generations, and this is where somebody in the family has kept a journal about their life at their time and stuff. And I have a she was my great-grandfather's half sister or his aunt. I can't remember if it was my great-grandfather's aunt or if it was my great-grandfather's half sister. But she kept letters over the years of ones that she had copies of letters that she had written, and this is back in the 1800s. So she had written letters about her life living in the manor house in Warboys in England, in Huntingdonshire in England, which is now part of Cambridge. About living in the manor house there, which is where the family lived at the time. And so she had written these letters, and there were copies of these letters that she had written. It was to this one person. And then the replies coming back, but it was just basically her day in the life of her life in the manor house. And then eventually these letters were all collected and were put into a book that was published, I think it was in the early 1900s. But I have my great aunt actually had a copy of the book. And so my mother borrowed it one day and took some copies of and made some copies of the book. And then she went and got one of those books that just have archive sleeves in it, and she put the copies into there. And then in the back of it, she put, this is one that she gave me. And so I had Patty's letters at the front part of it. That was everything that was in the book. So she had photocopied the book, put these photocopied pages into one of those books that just have sleeves, have the archive sleeves. And then in the back of that, she had a document there, a typewritten document that when my parents were in England one time, they went and visited the manor house and explained that their family used to live there and that. And the guy had just had bought the manor house recently, or had bought the house and was in the process of restoring it because somebody had come in and done all this Italian stuff in there, and he was like, no. So he had restored it back to original things, and he had done a research on the house and all the families that had lived in there, and he gave my mum a copy of this document. And so that's in the back there, along with some pictures of the of inside the house and outside the house and the graveyard, because there's a driveway that goes down the side of a church, and the manor house is at the back there, and then the church is in the front, basically in the front yard of the manor house. And in that church graveyard is where I have some of my ancestors. And so they had photographs of all the different tombstones and stuff that were in there as well. So that is, to me, is a great piece of history, which I absolutely love. So you may have something like that where somebody has kept a journal, and this journal has just been passed down through generations. And so you get to see, and with journals, you get to see a peek into what their lives were like at that point in time. Another one is gravestone rubbings. Now, I don't recommend doing this because some of them can do damage to the stone if you're doing rubbings. There is a specific way that you can do it, and I don't know the specific way of doing it. But there is ways that you can do gravestone rubbings successfully that do not damage the stone in any way. But there have been gravestone rubbings done over the years by different people and things like that. There have been cross-stitch and embroidery samplers that have done with the family tree. And where I saw this was, we were at a Amish house back in 2014. We were up in Pennsylvania, in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and the bed and breakfast that we were staying at would help organize that you go and have a meal with an Amish family and spend some time with them in the evening. You're there for a couple of hours. And it was a very interesting experience. And when we went in there, there were these framed samplers up on the walls that had their family trees. And it was just their direct line. So, like the wife was written on there, and then there were her parents, and then with their parents. And it was just really cool to see these cross stitches. And this was how the Amish, these ones recorded their family trees, was doing these samplers. It was cross stitching the samplers, and these ones had their names, their birth dates, had names and birth dates on them. And it was a really cool piece of work. It just fascinated me. You can also get personal objects that are handed down through generations. Pocket watches, jewelry, clothing, accessories, and there may be there may be notes that come with it to say whose it was and where. I have a barometer that is made, I think it's made out of oak. It's a square barometer that actually sits on its corners. And it was my great, I think it was my great grandfathers, and I can't remember which grandfather it was. Oh, I also have a cross stitch that my great grandfather created, and it's not a small cross stitch. They took it out of the frame, and it always hung in my grandparents' house. And the last time I'd seen it, it had been above their dining table. They had this big open room that was a living room, dining room area, and it sat on the wall. And it's a big piece, and I remember seeing it there. And my dad said, "Oh, we got something for you." When I went home one time, or they brought it over. Can't remember which, but I have it. They'd taken it out of the frame and had folded it up. So all I need to do, if I want to get it reframed, is to take it to a framer where they will gently steam it, and they have to be somebody who knows how to deal with tapestries. But this is a gorgeous tapestry, and it's of a knight on a horse, and it's one that my great grandfather did, and that was my dad's father's father did that tapestry. And so I have that, and it's awesome. It is just really, really cool. So you can get, things like that come down. Have you ever been into a home? This one I love, where you go into a home and there is a wall of photographs, and from all different eras. And if you take the photo down, you can turn it over, and on the back is written who it is, and how they fit into the family and that sort of thing. And you hang it back up on the wall again. You don't usually take them down, but they've got the information written on the back of the frames and things. And you've got a visual display. And some people will actually put it into like a tree formation to show how the tree works. And some of them will just have them. Here's the oldest ones up here, and we'll just go across here. But some of those can be really cool to see. Let's see. What did you just see, Zeph? Some people may have kept a record of family pets that they have had through the years. And this could be who owned the pet, what the name of the pet was, what breed it was, whether it was whether it was a bird, a dog, a cat, whatever, whatever, and what breed it was. Maybe there might be a photograph included with it. And so that's another way that you can, that other miscellaneous records you can come across. Let's see. Oh, what else can I do? I've got a whole list of things here. I'm just trying to pick out some really cool ones. A signature collection. This is a compilation of signatures obtained from family members across different generations, where somebody has gone in and, they've signed letters, they've signed documents, and somebody's come along and taken copies of all these signatures and put them compile them into a book or something like that, so people can go through and they can see, and they've handwritten on there whose signature that was, when it was signed, so you can see the changes in handwriting over the years and things. And it's actually really cool to see documents that were signed by your ancestors. They could have been born 200 years ago, and here's a document with their signature on it, or their handwritten bit and then their signature. It's really cool. And especially when you get to like marriage certificates where they sign their name, birth records, if they're the one that's doing if they're the informant, or if they're the informant on a death certificate, you get to see their handwritten stuff in there. And a lot of times there's times that you will see an X, and somebody has written put parentheses around that and put the name of the person whose mark it was as the mark of. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is a time capsule. These are really cool. They're sealed containers that are filled with items that represent the era that people are in now, and they get opened by future generations. And it could be photographs, letters, newspapers, trinkets, and some of the more modern ones that are getting done these days, some of these more modern time capsules, may include a USB drive. Not sure how those would would last over the years and things. But some people go and bury them in the backyard. Like when they're kids, the kids want to do this time capsule thing, so they go and bury it in the backyard in one of their old metal lunch boxes or whatever. And there are actual, if you're looking at doing a family time capsule, there are actually capsules that you can get to put things in that can be sealed and all that sort of stuff, help preserve whatever's inside there. But there's been things that have been dug up in people's backyards because, long ago there was some family that lived in that house, like especially on farms. I don't know what it is with farms, but somebody's bought a farmhouse that was built in like the 1800s. And they're out in the backyard one day digging to put in a garden, they're digging to put in a fence post, whatever it is. And they come across, the spade hits something and they're like, oh, I wonder what that is. And they dig around and they bring up this time capsule from a family who lived there in the late 1800s. Those sort of things are really cool finds. And if you do find one in your backyard, try and find out who the family was that had that time capsule, and then try and trace down their descendants, so you can pass that information across to the family. Pass that information across to the descendants of that family, so that they have a piece of their history. And if you don't know who they are, then go to the local genealogical society or family library, and take this stuff in and tell them where you found it and things like that. And their genealogists will get to work and figure out and get the stuff to the family and everything else. And travel journals are the other ones too. Some people keep journals of their everyday life. Some of them keep specific travel journals. Like this was our trip to, Wisconsin. We had to travel by train to here, or we had to travel by horse and cart to get there. So look for different things like that. So what miscellaneous genealogical things that are a little unusual that you may have, your parents may have in their house, your grandparents may have it. Maybe you've been passed a trunk full of memorabilia stuff from over the years with your families. Always great things to do, and they are really cool finds. They really are, because they do give you a glimpse into what life was like at the time when your ancestor was walking the earth, and gives you a glimpse into who they were and what they did and things like that. So those are just a few of the ideas. I have a whole slew more, but those are just the ones I'm picking out, and my voice is about to disappear on me. So go out, have a super fantastic sparkling evening. Be back here at 6 p.m. Pacific tomorrow evening, because we do have a special guest. Nicole will be joining us. She wasn't with us last week because of a family situation, but she will be with us tomorrow. So we'll be going live at 6 p.m. Pacific tomorrow evening with Nicole, all talking about health and how to live your best life now by making sure your health is good, because we can have all the time in the world we like, but if we don't take care of our bodies and have good health, we can't really enjoy it. So we want to live our best life now, the healthiest we can. So join us tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific, and you'll be able to hear what Nicole's topic is this month. I have no clue. Go out and have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and we'll catch you guys back here at 6 p.m. Pacific. Hey, konera.